Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Infinite Intelligence. My name is Infinite, and in this video, I'll be discussing with you and giving you a life update on my recent experience on taking my CRC coding exam. Now, this video is going to be not my typical video. It's probably, I don't speak about my life like that on this channel. Or anything, but I do want y'all to know I am a real person that goes through real things, and maybe this will just help somebody else. I don't know, but what is CRC? CRC is short for risk adjustment coding. So if you're in the medical field or have no clue with the medical field, you might be familiar with inpatient coding, outpatient coding, and there's risk adjustment coding, which just focuses on coding chronic illnesses. So for the past 6 months, I took a class and studying extensively on this subject matter. All right. And for the past 6 months have not been the easiest 6 months. And I'm talking about just from my experience with taking a class, it's just well as just learning all the things, cramming my brain with all the things to prepare myself for this exam, right? And so, before I get to, you know, which the subject matter, the thumbnail says it all. I didn't pass my exam. I didn't. I fucking and there might be cussing in this video, but yeah, I didn't pass my goddamn exam. So, it's it is what it is. I was depressed about it, but I feel like talking about it, will help me. You know, I'm definitely gonna, attempt to do it again. But I had to just take like a mental break because my brain is just overloaded with like so much information that I just feel like I had to take a step back and breathe because I've been under so much like pressure or whatever. So I started taking this class back in January and everything. And it's been, like I said, not the best experience, but not the worst experience nonetheless. And I ended the class like in May. I went on vacation to Utah, Las Vegas, and Arizona at the end of June. You might have noticed that my content has slacked up, but I was able to, upload videos so I can, be consistent on my channel or whatever. So I just took the test on the 16th of this month or whatever. And to be honest, like, I thought I was fully prepared for this test. Like, I've been studying, and like I said, I took the class. I purchased the study guide. I got all three study exams. I passed all three study exams. I've went over and read, and I got me a like a study buddy from the class that I took. So I thought I was like fully prepared for this exam. And that's probably why I was so depressed, and I kind of had these huge high expectations for myself because I did all the necessary like groundwork to make sure that I was fully prepared for this exam. But like the night before, I really couldn't sleep all that well because I just was like very anxious and just ready. And I think I was too, to be honest with you, I feel like part of me, before I get into the exam part, I feel like I didn't have the right energy around me before taking this exam. Like the week before, like was a rough week at work. My coworkers get on my damn nerves, and there might be cussing in this video, but my coworkers get on my damn nerves. Um, I'm really ready to do something else right now. I am in the billing department doing claims validation, which I loved what I do up until they changed the system, and you would think a new system at a job would help things flow along better, but in my situation it made the job worse, and everybody's kind of going through it at my job because of this system. But that's another story. But I never knew someone could, like, you can go from loving something from just a system change, and now you just hate doing it because it's like there's so many things that go into like my job or whatever, and they just made it like 10 times more complicated than it had to be. But like I said, that's a whole nother story. So, but I say that to say, like, I feel like I was just too anxious for a change in my life, and like being and having like too much pressurized energy around like taking this test, and just, yeah, I just don't feel like that's the type of energy that I need to have before taking this test. And I hope I don't seem like I'm rambling in this video or whatever, but it is what it is. So, like I said, the week before was rough, a rough week. My coworker, the day before the test, I decided, really, I had already put my time in to be off the day before the test, and my coworker, that is a freaking hypochondriac slash uh, chronic liar. She tries to take off every fucking Friday, which is very annoying because she don't. It's only two of us, or whatever. So you can't do that. You can't take off every fucking Friday, act like other people don't have other things to do, and then you gonna lie like it's something medical, and then it is really not. So, but that's likely that's another story. But anyway, like that was frustrating in itself because I needed to have the whole day off so I can be like my mind can be fully prepared for this test or whatever. So just even that whole back and forth of not even knowing if I was gonna be off was like anxiety driven. And once again, that's not the type of energy I need to have before taking this test. But either way it goes, I wasn't coming in regardless. But I wind up being off on Friday. Cool. So off on Friday, and I was happy about that. So I studied the whole day. But the person that I took the test from, the lady that I took the test with or whatever, she told me she was like, she was gonna call me, let's say around about like 4 or 5, so we can go over the test exam and just make sure that I was even more prepared than what I was. So I'm like, okay, cool. Keep in mind, I'm still gonna study and do me, like I was gonna do that regardless. So up until like 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm thinking, I done went and visited my mom to make sure, my mom and dad and the dog to make sure I had, a certain energy around me, loving energy, positive energy. Came home, came back to studying and everything like that. I even washed my hair, cleaned my house, just making sure I had the right energy around me. Then I contacted the lady. I was like, hey, are we still gonna, go over this stuff, And I didn't get a response back. So I'm like, did this lady just like leave me hanging before she know I gotta take this test tomorrow, and just left me hanging like this? So I don't know, that kind of, I'm I'm not gonna say it dampened my spirit, but to a certain degree it did, because I already had like, this is a huge test, and for you to kind of like flage me out about helping me prepare for it, even though I was gonna be prepared for it anyway, but it's just a point like I don't need anybody lying to me about helping me with something, or even suggesting you was gonna help me and then didn't even respond back when I'm like, okay, are we still on? That type of thing. So I was irritated about that, and I didn't respect that at all, because stuff like that I just don't respect. Because at the very least, you need to let me know something happened, some changed, something. So I'm like irritated to a small degree, but whatever. So, that night I made sure, I had gas in my car to drive to the center. and everything like that. So, I slept okay, but I didn't sleep all that well. And then that night, I had like a bad dream. I had a bad dream. I had a dream that somebody stole my car, but I really feel like I woke up like, let's say I woke up at like 5:30, but but the dream was kind of like a message, not that somebody stole my car, but I didn't know I needed to print out something, um, and my ink cartridge was low on ink, so I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to print it out because I needed that for the test. Like that was gonna be my admission ticket for the test because I thought I could like show my phone or whatever, but so my spirit told me to like check my email and print whatever I need to print out, and that was gonna be my admission ticket for the exam. So I got up early enough to like manage to print out what I need to print out, even though I didn't have like really any ink in my ink cartridge or whatever. But I'm glad I was able to print it out and I was good. So I'm like, okay, thank you, God. So, headed toward the center and everything. And keep in mind, there's a lot of rules on this admission, meaning like you can't bring, food, water, you can't have your phone, you can't have a pen, you can't wear, a jacket with pockets. This is a whole list of criteria that is like the standard for taking a test. So, I was like, okay, cool. I read through that. I had my book. I didn't have any loose papers. Everything for me was good. Okay. So when I get there, I'm assuming from, just from this, the fact that, this is like a really, really important test. I'm thinking, yeah, it might be other people taking the test, but I didn't think it would be a lot of people. And I felt like, this is my imagination kicking in. I just figured that it would be like a small group of people taking a test, and we would have like enough space, or like we would probably like be sitting in a cubicle type of thing. That's what I pictured. People sitting in their own cubicles taking a test, and they probably have like a camera, like facing them or whatever. But that's just how I pictured the scene to be or whatever. But when I got in there, it was not like that. It was just picture, um, I don't even know, like it reminded me, I want to say like a computer lab with no computers, but every like in all the tables were facing the wall, and it had like this cardboard thing separating your own personal space. That's the best way I can explain it. So I'm thinking, I was first person in there. So I'm thinking, maybe I'm gonna have this room to myself, or maybe this room might have like maybe four people. Like, because if I'm in a room as a square, I'm thinking like I'm gonna be on one side, this person gonna be on that side, that person gonna be on that side, and another person be on that side. It was not like that. It was like damn near four people on each side. So that's from my perspective, that's one too many people in this little ass room. Like, I mean, and we're not sitting that far from each other, and I was just like, okay. So when she set me down, um, I was gonna ask her like, okay, do I need to wait until everybody else gets settled in before I take the test? Because that's a lot of distraction. You going in, coming back out, trying to sit people where they're gonna be seated at to take a test. Like for me and my mind and stuff like that. Like if I'm gonna take a test, I need for the room to be settled. I don't need just all this whispering and people jumping. I don't That's too much going on, so I was already like, as I'm peeping the scene, and I'm already like irritated because like what's going on here. How are you gonna have people like taking an important test and it's just too much stuff going on in the room. So I was looking and I'm like, okay, so I had to like try to lock in with myself. So like I mentioned earlier, Like, you're not supposed to have, like, they took my bottled water, so I figured, they was gonna take my water or whatever. But and you check my pockets to make sure I didn't have this and that. But next thing I know, I'm hearing. I wish I had some like paper rattling, but next I'm hearing like paper rattling, like people opening up chips and candy, like wrappers, and like somebody opening some crackers and stuff. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, it's people walking in and out. It's people opening up chip bags and eating crackers, and I'm just like, folks coughing and sneezing and sniffling and stuff. I'm like, this is. I haven't even pressed the start button on the test, and it's already like too much going on in the room. Like, I was really irritated. I was so irritated, y'all. I was very irritated. Like, this can't be real. So after I managed to be like, okay, like, I'm trying to lock in with myself, but at the same time, like, you know, this test is not no cheap test. Like, for 2 attempts is $500. So I needed to be able to focus, like, on a level of, okay, this is an expensive ass test, and I need to be able to focus. Like, damn near, if I'm paying $500 for a test, I damn near need to be in my own room to a degree, my own suite. At the very least, my own cubicle, like I pictured. But yeah. So moving forward, so I, managed to start the test or whatever. And I'm not trying to make this video too long, but I managed to start the test or whatever. And I couldn't even get to the second question before it's like randomly pausing. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, so I'm kind of like hysterical to a degree, because I'm like, I'm trying to get, excuse me, I'm trying to get comfortable. And then, hold on, let me pop back up before I get into that part. Like, the lady gonna tell me, make sure you have your hands above like desk level, but I'm trying to figure out how people's opening up bags of chips and crackers and cookies and stuff, and where their hands at, because you had to pull it out from somewhere. So I don't know, but anyways, so before I get to like question 2, the test is pausing, like it's just pausing. So I'm like, what is going on? Keep in mind, I'm supposed to have access. You can't have a pen, so I'm supposed to have access to the excuse me, the desk calculator, the desk notes, the desk timer, and like I have to look at it like at a chart or something. So I got 4 things on my computer that I should be able to click and have like easy access to. But I couldn't even click or in, hold up, the content. Like, if I wanted to, there's 100 questions on the test. I have 4 hours to complete the test. So, but if I wanted, there's like sections of the test. There's like, at the top of my head, it's like 7 sections. So let's say I wanted to tackle the compliance section first, or the diagnosis section first. I couldn't even do that without the test freezing. And she said, yeah, I asked her before I started the test. I was like, am I going to be able to, attack the test the way I want to? She was like, yeah, it's no problem, whatever. But even as I'm either clicking on the calculator, trying to click on the notes, the test is automatically pausing. So I had to get up, find the lady, walk through this long hallway, and get her. I had to do that at least 3 to 4 times. And I told her, I was like, okay, is because she's like, oh, this is normal, and no, it shouldn't be, ma'am, because if I don't even feel comfortable utilizing the tools that I'm supposed to have to take the test, because now I got to worry about like having to constantly get up back and forth to having to come get you, because you're telling me this is normal. And it, like, what, like, what? So I was at that point in time, I kind of was like flustered, because it, like I said, it happened like 3 to 4 times. Me having to get up and get the lady. So I kind of like made a conscious decision that I wasn't gonna like click on anything else but the question and the next question and the answer. But to a degree, that's not, I should have just told them, like, if you can't get this together, then we're gonna have to reschedule this or whatever, because that's not fair to me, period. I really was just trying to get the 4 hours like done and over with. But I shouldn't even have done, I really, like, looking back on it, I shouldn't even have done that. I should have just said, well, if it's not acting right, let's schedule this for another day, or maybe I need to pick another location because this isn't fair to me that I'm not able to utilize the tools that I have in front of me to make this test like easier for me to do what I need to do, you know? So, and it's an open book test or whatever, but okay, that's neither here nor there. And when I say open book, I'm just talking about my coding book or whatever. And I can, whatever notes that I wrote down in my book, I can utilize those notes. But yeah, that's all I had. Looking up codes and whatever like small little notes I had that would help me, here and there throughout the test. Okay. So, boom. So as I'm taking the test, like I said, I took a class. I had already had 3 practice exams, and I had a whole lot of sections full of notes from my study guide, right? So, but as I'm taking this test or whatever, some of these questions are not in my study guide. Like they're just not there. It's just, and some of these questions have nothing to do with coding. Like I'm I'm being asked questions about when you breathe in air, what part of what part of the body adds moisture to the breath, and okay, like in hindsight now I know the answer, but at the time we didn't go over that. We didn't go over that in the test. There's nowhere in my study guide. Like, how was I supposed to know what part of the body adds moisture to the air we breathe in? Like, what? like like what? So I mean, and like some of these questions just are not questions that we went over. And I'm thinking I think my part that I'm like really frustrated with is if I done sat up here and paid for this class, if I done sat up here and paid for this study guide, and I sat up here and paid for these 3 practice exams, I'm not asking for the actual exam to be, these same questions, but it needs to kind of be in line with what you all had me study and take and et cetera, et cetera. Like a lot of those questions, like I want to say only maybe 3%, maybe 3 to 5% of, I didn't even really even use my notes that I had, and maybe out of 100 questions, maybe 3 to 5 of those questions were like questions that were either, on the practice exam, but they were worded. No, the questions were worded the same, but the answers was like totally different, like 100% different. And I didn't I wouldn't have known that. Like I just wouldn't have known that because that's not what I studied. That's not what I studied. Like I damn near should have. The only way I feel like even with that, like maybe if I would have asked ChatGPT, like, hey, even though this is the answer, what are like 5 other ways this answer could be the answer, like type of thing. But who's doing that? Like how was I supposed to know that? Like for example, there's this word I'm about to mispronounce it. It's a type of stroke. It's called petite myala or something like that. And on my practice exam, and like I said, I'm not trying to make this video too long, but on my practice exam, it's like it's just the characteristics is like subtle body movement, maybe like in and out of consciousness, that type of thing. But on the test, it's like you're unconscious for 3 to 5 minutes and this and that. But they also had other answers that were similar to what I studied, but none of them were the actual like answer. So I didn't, nowhere in there did it say like that type of stroke would consist of 3 to 5 minutes. Like I don't know. And I also feel like maybe because I was already frustrated with like taking the test. Like when I say taking the test, I'm talking about like all the things prior to, like in between this time of trying to think and stuff. It's a lot of coughing, it's a lot of sneezing going on, it's a lot of rattling going on, it's a lot of things that's just really like fucking with my nerves or whatever. So maybe if I was able to like have silence, I would have been able to be like, okay, this kind of goes with it. But because the answers were so different from what I studied or whatever, I couldn't even think like what would be relative to what I knew the correct answer to be verbatim, because it just was I couldn't focus. I could not focus none whatsoever. Like I just got to the point to where I was just like, okay, I'm just really just trying to get through with this, because I prepared a lot for this moment, and this is not how I pictured for it to be. And I'm having to really fight through it for these 4 hours. Like I didn't want to get up and use the restroom. I didn't want to get up and give myself a pep talk. I just need to get through these 4 hours or whatever. So to make a long story short, going through it, one of the questions, and I'm not even gonna go through all the questions or whatever, but like I said, if I would have been able to use the tools I had on my computer, it probably would have been a little bit smoother. But between all the people that was in the room, I want to say it's about maybe 16 people in like a really small room, and all this stuff going on, I couldn't focus. I couldn't. And I after, taking the test, I didn't feel like I did a good job. And it was some part of the test, like I even had sections that, like, had I would have been able to use my notes thing on a computer, I had in my mind, I couldn't like I had in my mind, I'm like, okay, I need to go back to question 15 or 13 or something like that. But because I couldn't, there was different, there was probably like, they didn't have it like, 1 through 100. They had it like, if section 1 had 15 questions, it was 1 through 15. If section 2 had 20 questions, it was 1 through 20. So I couldn't remember, I might have remembered the number, but I couldn't remember the section. You get what I'm saying? So it got to a point that I'm just kind of like clicking around for certain questions that I knew I need to go back to, but because I couldn't remember the section, but I remember the number, I was just wasting time trying to like go back to it or whatever. So it was just altogether, it was just a really frustrating, from my perspective, bad experience. And I really tried to like fight through it or whatever. So obviously after taking the 4 hour exam, I was like, I didn't feel good about it at all. I didn't feel like I passed. I didn't feel confident at all. Like I thought I got the coding part for the most part together, and I didn't do that bad on that section, but like I said, I couldn't focus. I just couldn't. So when I got home from after taking the test, I went and took myself out to eat to make myself feel better. And like I said, I do have a second attempt, and I got the results back within like 4 hours, and I missed it by like 13 points. But 13, I can say 13 points. Oh, that's not bad, but I still didn't pass the test. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I do have a chance, for a second attempt. I made a phone call to the AAPC on yesterday, just letting them know, like, I kind of need some recourse, because had I would have known that it was going to be all those people, placed in a room, taking the test, taking whatever test they were taking at the same time I was taking my test, first of all, I wouldn't have did it on a Saturday. I probably would have did it like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Secondly, if I would have known that the atmosphere or the placement of the test was going to be structured like that, like I probably would have called and been like, okay, how is this set up? Because, you know, having a little piece of cardboard in between, sitting inches away from somebody that's sneezing and coughing, is not okay. Like, I don't even sit that close to, like when I work remotely, but when we was working, I don't sit that close to people at work. So why would I sit that close to people taking a test like this? I wouldn't. Like, that just was not a good setup, like, at all. And like I said, this is a $500 test. I need my own cubicle. I need my own space. I need my own air to breathe if that's the case. Like, seriously. And why is people got cookies and chips and crackers and all this rattling going on? Like, what? But anyways, hopefully I get some kind of recourse from calling the AAPC or whatnot. Like I said, I called them yesterday. They're supposed to let me know something by next week. But I'm gonna retake. Like I said, I already have a chance to retake the test. In the best case scenario, you know, have they'll let me have like two retakes because I really feel like I got cheated, this first time around, despite the circumstances or whatever. If not, and I only get this one chance to, take the test, whatever, I'll take it in the next like 2 months because right now I'm taking like a week mental break from it because my brain is so overloaded with information, and I almost feel like I was down because it's like I know a lot of this stuff front to back, but I don't, because the way that test was like structured, and like some of the questions they were asking was just like kind of like off the wall to a degree. Like they didn't, okay, like for when I say off the wall, what does that mean? I mean, like, one of the questions asked me about, like, as a coder, you're gonna have to do possibly like provider education, and it asked me like, and really, I mean, that's not our job to do provider education, but it was asking me about provider education and like how would you approach a provider with educating them on whatever, whatever. So I mean, did the study guide go over the politically correct approach for that? I didn't see that nowhere in the study guide. I didn't see that nowhere on my practice exams. How was I supposed to know that answer? Like, to a degree, it could have been like a common sense type of question, but it wasn't a common sense type of question because I, I don't feel like I got the answer right because like two of the answers to me would have been good answers, but we didn't go over what the best approach would be exactly. So I just didn't feel like some of this stuff just really just threw me off because I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to know this? Like, outside of the fact that I didn't pass a test, like, I'm pretty sure that's one that I didn't get, but how am I supposed to know this? So I say that to say, like, I just have to, like, damn near spend like additional money or get some additional resources to help me prepare for like a whole nother set of random questions that could be asked regarding this because what I got from the AAPC was not clearly not enough. And I think that's the most frustrating part because if I've taken a class from an AAPC certified trainer, I got the AAPC study guide. I got the AAPC 3 practice exams. I didn't the actual exam was not close to what the resources y'all gave me or whatever. So I think that's the most frustrating part. Like, even as I'm taking the test, I'm looking like, okay, how they expect me to know this and we didn't go over. This is nowhere to be found in none of the resources that I have. Like, nowhere. So I think I was really more down about that, and then just trying to figure out how I'm gonna approach this or whatever. But I'm doing this video to let you know, like, I did not pass the test, but I'm picking myself up and I'm gonna try again. And I know there's plenty of people out there that have taken exams that meant the world to them, that meant like more than anything to them, and they didn't pass and they had to like try again. But I'm really hoping and praying that, the second time around that I do pass, and that regardless, I'm picking myself up and I'm going to try again. And no, I'm not perfect. No, I don't have all the answers. But that's really all I can do is just try again. So if you didn't get anything out this video, just know that it's not the end of the world if you don't pass a test that you feel like you're fully prepared for. Um, and sometimes, hell, I damn near, it was, I feel like it was kind of too late for me to reschedule the test when I kind of like had the wrong energy around the test. But I don't know. Sometimes I just be trying to push through things, even when circumstances seem like a little off or whatever. But it's all good. What they say, you can't cry over spilled milk. Like, I just know what to kind of prepare for next time. And like I said, I hope I get some kind of recourse or something, some kind of result through the AAPC. They said they're going to pull the cameras. I said, definitely pull the cameras because you're going to see it was too many people in that room. You're going to see me jumping up at least 4 to 5 times, walking down a long hallway trying to get somebody. You're going to see me clicking on things that wasn't working on the computer. You're going to see all that. Yeah. So, yeah. So I got more videos coming for you all about medical careers you didn't know about, and I'll probably do some on medical coding if you didn't know what risk adjustment coding is, inpatient coding, outpatient coding, and other careers that you might find interesting in the medical field. Until next time, to be continued. And if you like videos like this, let me know. Like, subscribe, and I'm out.